back to Wicked Art. It is Wicked here, and today we're going to be dabbling and coloring in Photoshop. So, essentially the same as um, Sketchbook, it just has some more features. So, we're going to be working with this picture of Ashoka Tano that I drew. So, if you'd like to, you can go ahead right now and take a screenshot of this, and then just go to File, Open, or place embedded, whichever one you want to do. Just do the place embedded and go in there. I'm working with these settings on my width and height and resolution. If your computer can handle a 600, great. If not, bump it down to 3. That way you can still get enough quality out of it. And for some reason I got this little dot in my picture. Let me take that out. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this layer here. I forgot to name it, but we're just going to call it lines. Okay, I'm going to add a new layer on top of that. And we're going to put base color. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my magic wand tool. If you don't see it, it's under one of these 3 selections. But I'm just going to pick that. Go around, and I'm going to make sure I pick inside right here. Okay, now the reason I'm going to do that is I'll show you. I'm going to inverse it, go to select, inverse, right? And then I can come down to the base color thing, and down here at the bottom is just a little mask button. I can just click that, and then watch what happens. If I go, let's just say I pick red, right? And increase my brush size. And I start painting. If you notice, it doesn't go outside of the areas that I want to add color to. So that comes in really handy while you're working. So just something to keep in mind. So first thing I'm going to do is just lay down all the base colors in here. Okay, so like we'll start with Ahsoka's skin. Now she has an orangey red type color. So somewhere down in here, I'm going to kind of go with this kind of a mid-tone right around in here. And I'm just going to use the basic brush. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to start coming in, and I'm just going to color it in. Now, you could, I'm sure there's other videos you watch where they take it and just fill the whole thing gray or whatever. To each their own. I'm just going to do the method that I want to do. It's more enjoyable to me. I like painting in everything. I'm sure there's shorter methods, but that's completely up to you how you want to do it. Like you can come in and just lasso the area and pick it that way. So whichever way you want to work fastest, that's completely up to you, man. There's no wrong way to get things done unless you're working for a business that needs their stuff fast. Then you might want to go about doing a faster method. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and fill in. And it's okay if you kind of like go over like certain areas that you're not trying to color in, because we're eventually going to color those in anyway. And I'll show you another reason that I kind of do it this way, because you can find shorter ways still in between everything to color it in. So like for example, if I wanted it to be the white that's in the paint, I can now go in here and fill in that way and just touch up the areas that need to be touched up. So it's always something that you can go in and do that way. And that's the method that I'm going to be choosing to do on my image. Okay, so I'm just going to finish filling her in. Mass majority of this color is obviously just going to be on her face. We got a few spots on the arm and the hands that'll get filled in as well. So just think of this as like a draw with me. You're kind of doing it in real time with me. So just kind of go through and keep track with what I'm doing. Okay. Now another method you can do is watch. I'll show you this. We can come in here. Okay, and I can just paint in the outline of an area. So if I want to cut down on my paint in time, I can take that and fill in that area, and that just leaves me with a small portion to just kind of go over and fill in. So that can help save you some time too, if you want to do it that way. Like I said, you can use a lasso tool if that's the way that you want to go about it. That's completely fine. And I'm just getting a little bit of her neck down here. But those are just some options that you have when it comes to painting these things in with a base color. Now you can do, I'm going for like a comic book style with this anyway, but you can do a thing where, like, once I get done with all the orange, I could mask that out and just leave it so it's separate by itself and nothing goes in there. Um, Again, it's just a choice, it's up to you. But I'm going to come in here and get all the orange first, and then we'll go back and hit up those white areas on the skin. So since they're both right here in this spot touching each other, makes it a little bit easier just to go across. And we'll just finish filling in that hand. Now we do have a little bit of space here where some skin will show, and here as well. Okay, and then we just kind of move down and make sure we're filled in nice and good in these areas so it's not got any white spots. We have the open part of her shirt. And the reason these are called, your base colors are called your color flats, is it makes your image look flat. So it's not going to be anything amazing while you fill it in. It's just going to look like a flat, almost like a coloring book type deal. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and use that method that I showed y'all, where I just fill it in right in there. Okay, and then I can just hit up this white area. It's like almost like an outline of what we just did. And another thing to do when you're done is always pull back. So you can either hold Z. If you press that, it'll go to your zoom button. Command Z, it all still works the same. Or you can just come over here and click and go back, and you can kind of see how things look. So I like what I'm seeing here, so I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt to pull my color picker up. Okay, and I can fill in these areas here if I want, or I can just simply take my brush and hand paint them in. That's completely up to you how you want to do that. I am gonna do, and the reason why I just hand painted that is because if you notice, like some of these really thin areas, the paintbrush or the paint bucket's not gonna fill that in, just because of the pixel space. It's not gonna fill everything, so it'll leave it blank, and you just have to go in there and hand paint it anyway, which to me just kind of defeats the purpose anyway. So I'm just gonna kind of stick in with just filling it in myself. Okay, now I do want to fill in these little reflective dots white, but I'm going to do kind of more of like a gray white. So I'm going to go to the whitest part and just kind of come down, and I'm going to do that with a different tone with the eyes, just so it stands out a little bit differently, from what it actually is. Um, and actually, now that I'm looking at it, I am missing a line. So I'm just going to kind of add that in right here. You need to shrink that down some more. Kind of go this way, back out. That's better line size. Okay, make sure you go back to your color layer. And I just finish filling in. Okay, so now we have a good face. Now Ahsoka has blue eyes. So we're going to go and fill those in as well. Okay, now her lip color is interesting. Okay, so we kind of come back to that orange area, but we go for more of a um, kind of like a brown-ish color, but we really want to be in that orange vein. So somewhere right in there. And just fill those in as well. Okay, and we got our little spots here and there that are missing some color, so I'm just filling those in as well. Alright, so now the next thing I want to do is we're going to take a step back and look. So now I have the whole outfit and I have the headdress. So I'm going to start working on the headdress, and I'm going to do the bigger areas first, which is the white. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and fill those in. Okay, so since that one was a little bit smaller, I'm just going ahead and just painting that in myself. But we can use that shorter method um, when we get to the larger areas. So like this one's got a little bit more space to it. So again, I can save me some time. Just come in here and get that outline, hit it up with the white, and go in and fill in that little outline residue that it has. Okay, and then I'm just going to go through and do the same for the rest of the head pieces here. Alright, so fill that in. And we'll switch sides. And I'm just going to work my way up, back and forth. And just fill that in with the paint bucket. And go around and hit up that outline. Okay, and we'll just continue to move up. Okay, so now we're getting into a much wider space up here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of fill it into a point. So like I can go ahead and just fill in that area there. And I can come to the other side here and kind of just do the same thing. And I can just go around and kind of block out to a point in these wider areas. And just go around the headdress that way. Okay, we can go around this area. Go around the points. And just fill it in. So again, whatever method you want to use is fine. There's really no wrong way. It's just whether what you're doing is like if you're doing something like this right now, it's just a hobby, you're just playing and doing colors, and there's no real rush on anything. That is a method of doing. Okay, so let me just go ahead and we'll just fill in this top region up here. Again, because I don't have that mat, or because I have the mask, it doesn't go outside of the line work. And that's only for the outside of your character. So lines on the inside you can still kind of color into. Okay. So now let's finish up. Go around. Again, I can stay close to that edge just because I don't have to worry about going outside. And kind of go around that way. Just fill it in. And I hit up that little slight edge that did not get filtered. Okay, so I'll just finish that up. And it's a little bit, that edge is a little bit harder to see when everything's white, but it's okay. Okay, now I do want this kind of like a white reflective edge inside these pieces here. So I am going to go through and paint those. Okay, so we'll kind of come out. So the next stage we have is we have the blue on the headdress. Okay, so it's kind of a darker blue. It's more like this color here. Okay, so I can just go around. And again, because I've painted that particular area white already, I can just take my paintbrush or bucket brush fill thing, the paint bucket fill brush, and just make it a little bit faster that way. Okay, so again, I can just kind of take this area that's by the necklace. I have to fill that in, and we'll just take it down to here. Got a little bit of blue in there. I'll fix that real quick. Whoops, wrong color. Okay, so we can just fill that in. And you can see that's starting to make the process move a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to fill that in here. And we can just keep moving down. And you can see that kind of ended up filling in this part. So let's kind of block that off. So you get that white off the face there. Come back and pick my blue. Again, that's holding the Alt key. Okay, so we'll finish filling that in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase this part that kept filling in. Okay, I'm going to switch to this other side. Like I said, I'm just trying to keep it even. I go down, it's a smaller section. So I don't mind personally just painting it in. And we'll continue this way. Block that off. Come down right there. And just fill that in. Okay. And we'll hit up this side. And this is actually blue down here as well. Let's hit up that side, and then want to make sure I block off this side over here. Paint bucket, fill, and move along. Okay, switch back to blue. And then I just got these bottom pieces. Now again, these methods that I'm using and what steps I take, they are mine. They're not the be-all, get-all way to do things. And like I said, I'm sure there's 101 different artists out there that will teach you how to do something different. So please, again, just keep in mind, I'm just showing you the way that I do things. Okay? So again, we can take a step back and look at what we got. It's starting to fill in nicely. Now we want to kind of get like this, it's not really gold, more like a platinum color. So I'm kind of coming down here just to like a dark yellow and switching over to that. Now this should be relatively easy because we've already filled in a majority. So you can see how that just kind of went ahead and filled in. So what I can do now that I'm zoomed in, I can use my color picker and touch up some of these areas that it did overflow on. So like I'm just using the white in there. Okay, and then I can just switch back to that gold color and get those filled in. Now these smaller areas I'm just going to go ahead and take care of, just because they take half a second to fill in. So just kind of work your way around. Any areas that you see that you might have missed, go ahead and touch those up while you're there, so you don't have to go back and hunt them down later. Okay. Now, almost done with that, and then we can move on to the body color for the outfit, and then the lightsaber, and then once we're done with that, we can start working on shadows and things like that. And as you can see, it kind of filled in everything else, but that's fine. We'll take care of that part when it goes. Okay, so now we want to kind of go for this almost like a maroon color for the leather outfit that she wears. So let's try go a bit darker. See what that looks like. Yeah, it's pretty close. So I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so again, my edges are blocked by the mask, so I don't have to worry about it going outside the lines. Now, if you're wondering why I'm leaving that one spot blank, that's because it's just going to be a dark shadow area, so it's not really going to get filled in. Okay, so I'm just going to continue around, again, not worrying if I go over a little bit. Um, Something we did forget to do is her orange skin through these different parts. So we'll touch that up in a second. Alright, so we're just going to finish filling that in. Go up this way. Alright, and now I'm going to go around, and we'll do these arms last. I want to get the body done first. Again, just personal choice, no particular reason. Okay, touch up that little bit of blue. I'm going to shrink my brush down with the bracket keys, just so I can squeeze in that corner. And again, any areas that I see that are kind of messed up, I'm going to touch those up as I go. Okay, so we'll just continue. Alright, and we can just continue that around the headdress. Again, any spots that need some filling, we're going to fill them in as we go. Again, because we have our mask, I don't have to worry about going outside the line on that right side. So I can just continue around. And this is actually a different color on that little V part. Okay, so we'll just fill that in. Okay, and then that takes us back to getting down into the arms. Again, we'll just fill that in. And I got it. It just depends on lighting and things too. It could have been more of a brown leather, but since I'm doing kind of a darker scene, because I want to highlight the lightsaber ones beaming the hilt there, it'll stand out more. So I'm just kind of making everything else darker around it too. Right, so again, since I'm filling it in this way, it'll make it go a little quicker when I go to fill in the orange skin. Okay, so I'll just finish this last one. Now for this particular part, so that I can finish off that skin tone too, I'm just going to block that off to there. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to a dark brown. Make it a little bit darker. Just for the underside of this gauntlet that's wrapped underneath. So we'll go ahead and fill that in as well. And since I'm already here, I can do the strap the same color. Okay, so now I can color pick my skin. Fill in, fill in. Oops. That one did not go as planned. So let's try and block that off. And fill that in. And that one's still running through, so we're going to have to block that one off as well. Alright, so you should just fill that in just fine. Alright, and now I can come back up to this area and just continue with that kind of a maroon color. Let's just take that up to the glove. Go around a little hand opening here. Okay, we'll just fill that in. Again, any spots that you see that you missed, just go ahead and fill those in while you're there. And save you some headache noticing it later when it's bothering you, like what's wrong with it. Okay, and then we want to do the same to the other side here. Let's fill that in. Let's hit up that edge here. Okay. Take that around. And just begin filling that in as well. Now, she does have actual pattern work and stuff on her clothes. I am not going to sit here and draw all that in, so that's one part for all the Star Wars faithful out there. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit there and draw all that in there. uh, yeah, that would definitely elongate this video even more. There are ways of importing different patterns and just spreading them out that way, but I think that makes it kind of look a little stale and not as convincing. So I'm going to sample that brown leather that I did and come up here to the strap, and I'm going to put that in there. So again, if I go ahead and I step back and look, got ourselves a nice color base going. The belt is going to have more of a reddish hue to it. So maybe come down this way. And we'll just fill that in. Okay, now she does have a few buckles, brace things on here that are of a different color tone. Okay, so we're going to use that same gold color from here and just leave that here on the belt, and then just go around with the red, I should say reddish color. And we'll just fill in that part of the belt. Okay, and then we're going to have kind of a gray silver color for the buckle part. We can actually probably go a little darker. Okay, and then I'm also going to we're going to switch to a blue. I'm going to use this kind of a blue-gray color. I'm going to move it down some more just so it's a little bit darker. Okay, but her other lightsaber is down here, hanging from her belt. And then we're going to come up here. and just color in the lightsaber. Um, Now this section right in here, we're gonna do kind of like an almost black for the grip, or the separation of the two pieces. Okay, but the rest will have that traditional silver blue color that we're going for with the metal. Alright, so I'm just going to finish that up, and then we'll go get that top side, and then we'll be ready for shadows. Now there's a reason we're not filling in the lightsaber blade itself. I'm going to do a special method for that here in Photoshop to get that to look good. Okay, so again, we can take a step back and look and see what we got, and we're good to go. Right? So what I can do is I can now hit add new layer, okay, because I want this to be above my base color. Okay, I'm going to hit command so it reselects all that stuff, and then I can just hit another mask out there. I'm going to switch to black, and again, because I said I was going for a comic booky style, okay, I'm just going to use pure black. To fill in some of these areas, to kind of darken them. Okay, so certain spots will get almost like a DC kind of look to it with the coloring. So you may be wondering, like, oh, we just spent all that time doing, whatever. Well, I mean, we could have done this first. We could have done this part first. I just chose to do it this way. Simple as that. Now, if you notice, that's why so what we'll do is we'll just call this, we'll say inking. So if you notice, it'll kind of give us a nice blend off here. And what we can do is in certain areas, just kind of darken. It's almost like, if you think about it, we're kind of thickening the line work on certain spots. And just adding a deeper shadow to it. Same thing as I go around. Okay, and we can always zoom out and go back and check and see what we got. Alright, so like down in here, I'm going to go ahead and hit this belt up. I'll make sure I get that under the belt too. Okay, little things like certain areas on the belt. And then coming down, just trying to keep those darkest shadows consistent with each other. Okay, so certain parts of the lightsaber we can thicken up the edge on like that. And I do want to make sure certain things Let me go ahead and fix this color right here on the arm. Okay, switch back to black. So like certain things we can do now is just really just thicken up the line work in certain spots. Like in areas where there's like overlap. Things like that. Again, we can just carry that down. Now, if you don't want to do this portion, like you don't want the inking, that's fine. Your picture may look a little different than mine when it's all said and done. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's okay. It's your artwork. You do what you want with it. I'm gonna do shadows a little bit darker around the edge of the belt here. And we want to smooth that out. Okay, so we can come back, we can fill this. And make sure we run down that way. And get that coverage from the belt there. And again, because we have that mask on there, I don't have to worry about going down the outside edge. Now, you can see what that's done with our character. Okay, now we need to still continue through to do the rest. So like kind of like we did here up at the top. I can kind of draw this line to a point here. Bring this down some more. Alright. Again, we can take that from here and work our way up. Just kind of get thinner as I go. And you can see how that kind of helps bring form to what it is that we're doing. Okay, because again, we're doing like a comic booky type thing, so I'm going to do the same right here on the side of the face. And once you kind of practice your shading and stuff, you can kind of determine from there like what looks cool, what looks good. Unless you're going for 100% accuracy. Excuse me. Sorry. If you're going for like 100% accuracy, then you might want to look up some references to help you out. I can tell you inside of here, we definitely want some shadow. Okay. Tiny bit here. Just to kind of smooth that off. Okay. Same. Just right inside of here. We have a tiny bit of a curve right there. And we can take that. Right off that front side, right there. Okay. Now I do want to keep that trend going and think about my lightsabers being over there, so I'm going to make sure that my shadow travels back and away from it. Okay. We could get a little bit of the bottom side right here, and since this is under it, we definitely want to hit that up as well. So again, always zoom out, check and see how things are looking. So far, so good. Okay, so we're going to come in here. We're going to definitely round that off and make that darker down in there. Okay, a little bit down here. Definitely these back edges here, we'll just go ahead and make those black as well. Maybe thicken up the edge here. Since this is turned away, we're going to go along that top side right here. Continue to thicken up the bottom right here. Okay, do a tiny bit on the edges. Get this bottom edge here, like that. Okay, and we can thicken just a little bit right here around the fingers, and then kind of come in and get our shape right there on the hand. Okay, I can do a little bit of the same here on the thumb. And get a little bit right there on the skin. Okay, and I'm just going to hit up these little edges right in here. And just kind of thicken up certain areas. Like here on the thumb, kind of hit that edge up. And you can adjust your brush size at any time if it starts getting too thin in certain areas. And you want to make sure that you don't go too big. Just go in there and adjust the brush size. Okay, so same thing through here. Like I said, the nice part is if you mess up and you just don't like the way it looks, I mean, it's on a separate layer, so it's not going to massively affect anything that you've done. Fill this in on this back side of the arm here. Like I said, just think of it like we're working the darkest points. Okay, so let's come down, get our fingers in there. just essentially just reinforcing the thickness of the shadow and stuff in there. And again, it's just my method of doing it. Don't take this as 100% that that's what everybody would look for you to do, but it is a way to do it. So, all right, so we want to get this back side a little bit more on the bottom there. Maybe just thicken up the edge there and put like a little turn right in here. Okay, so you can see how that's kind of giving us some form and some shape. I am going to come in here and shrink my brush size up, and we're going to hit these bottom areas some. I can switch back to my color layer and fill in any of these spots that are a little jacked up and got some messed up things in there. Okay, and I'm going to switch back to black, go back to my inking layer, and we can kind of make a slight adjustment to it. Okay, I'll go on this side. And again, these are more like aesthetic choices on my part. I'm sure there's probably a famous comic book artist out there somewhere who could pick this apart and say, I wouldn't do that. But again, art is about exploration, learning, seeing what methods best suit you, what your style is, all that stuff. That's all something to take into consideration. Again, unless they are specifically asking you to do a certain style a certain way, then that's different. Okay. Now I do want to give a little bit of edge thickness to these back lines. It'll just make it pop a little bit more. Okay, and then what I would do on this side is just do the opposite. And you can look at my screen at my brush size, so it's just on 7 right now. Okay, so we have ourselves a nice setup. I'm just debating right now whether I want to do anything on the face. Probably thicken up right here at the nose. Um, see what that looks like. Let me zoom out. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so we can do the edge of the face. Give that a go. See what it looks like. So if it's going to take away from it too much, I probably won't use it, which is why I'm not really picking up the brush right now. So it's just a quick, easy, you know, Control Z and it's gone. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that gives it a nice, pretty good solid edge to give me more to work with right there. Let's test up underneath. or the headdress a little bit. See how that helps. That's pretty good. So I like that. I like where that's going. Now let's go into what we call the shadow. Okay. So I'm going to put that underneath my inking layer. I'm going to call that shadow. And again, I can simply just come in, hit Command, come back to this layer. This says shadow, and put me a nice little mask in there. I'm going to keep it on the black. Okay, and then what you're going to do is just pick an airbrush of some kind. If you do not have an airbrush, there are a bajillion out there for you to download for free. Um, and you can just use one of those. I'm just trying to find where I kept mine. Okay, so just get an airbrush tool. Um, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to start um, hitting up some of these areas here. To just give us another layer of shadow. Okay. So you can see what that does is it kind of softens and creates a transition. Okay, now what I am going to do is, because I like to take it a section at a time, I'm going to erase out the area that I didn't want to do, and that's where you could use a magic wand to help you, but that'll kind of give you a hard line. So I'm going to come in here and give that whole back line there. I'm going to shrink this down some. And do this back area here. Like that. And again, we can kind of take this area here. And I'm not pressing down hard. I'm just kind of lightly building in the shadow that I want. So again, if we look at it, it's giving us a nice color tone here, but what I want to do is make sure that that color is even across the board and not different. Sometimes airbrushes can do that, and you'll see like a pretty significant difference between the two. I'm going to shrink my brush down just a little bit and get up underneath right here. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same for under the arm here. I'm just going to kind of fill in. And build out. Okay, so we're starting to get a little bit more. So now what I want to do for this part is I want to stay close to the bottom, like that. Alright, let me shrink it down, kind of hit the edges of these buckles and things. Okay, and then I'm going to show you a trick, because like right now it's on 100%. We're going to adjust that just so it's a little bit softer. Okay, so let's take this down right in here. Okay, and certain things I can do, like I didn't mean to get some of these spots, so if you need to go back and erase out areas that weren't supposed to get the shadow, it just makes it that simple. And again, this is why we work in layers, because if we mess up on anything, it's an easier fix than trying to redo a whole section. Okay. So we're starting to get more form in here, so let's just continue. I'm going to hit up this edge right here, as well as come up from this direction. And like I said, I'll show you how to make it a little bit softer so it's not so intense between the two. And we're going to come back here and get all of that. Okay, and we want to kind of work the same for that back area. Like that. Alright. So work that in there and then kind of give a little shadow down in the chest here. We definitely want to work in a little bit right in here, just because it's down underneath the chin. Okay, I can do the same thing here. Make sure I build that out. Okay, and the reason why I worked up through there is if you watch, if we go through, and again, that's why we use layers. So I'm going to go back through here. I'm going to work my way all the way up, even through those little pieces, because I want this section to be covered, right? So now I can come in here to this area. Okay, I can erase out. That particular piece that I don't want to have anything in it. And then I can come back and hit them up individually, fixing what it is we're doing. Okay. Now, we're going to come in and start working these pieces here. So I'm going to shrink my brush size down. We're going to go ahead and shade in that whole one side here and here, because you got to think of it like what its shape is. It's a almost pyramid type shape, so it's not going to be perfectly clear without, I should say, or not have any shadows. It should have some. And then as we start to work towards that front side here, more areas will end up being visible to the eye. Okay, so again, those shadows are going to seem harsh at first. Again, I'm going to show you how to tone those down. Okay, so let's work our way up the beads. We're going to go really small with that. Again, just to give it like a little extra bit of layer in there. Give a little bit more to the shadows. Make it look a little bit more rounded. Okay, so we're just going to work that in, go around. Okay. Now, next thing I want to do is the last part, is this face. Okay, so I'm going to make my brush size a little bigger. And I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to work my way around. Okay. We'll work our way down the side of the face, giving shape to her cheek. Okay, get a little bit more up under the eye here. And down the side of the nose. And I'm going to make sure I come under the nose. Okay, now watch this. We're going to come in. And I'm going to clean up this top piece here. Okay, I'm going to shrink my brush down. And I am going to get the bottom section right here. Okay, I'm going to get down here by the chin too, just a little bit. Alright, and then what I want to do is, like here in the eyes, we want to give a little shadow. To help with that. And then for the other side of the face, it's mostly exposed to the lightsaber light. So what we're going to do is just keep it close, top of the head to about right here. Okay. And I'm going to come in on this side. And build me a little edge right there. Okay. So the last part of shadows that we have is this section over here. So we're going to knock that out by simply coming in and giving that a touch there. And a little bit on the banding there. And then I do want to get the tiniest bit on the hilt here. Okay. And that takes care of our shadows, right? So now we got to start thinking about the intensity of it, right? So if I come in here, a good rule of thumb for me is I like to go down to about 82%. So see how that kind of softens it a little bit, and that's not so intense anymore. It gives a nice little cell shading on there. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to do is we're going to do the lightsaber itself, the beam. So I'm going to go above the line layer on this one, right? I'm going to call this saber. Okay, I'm going to pick we'll do when she had the green saber. So I'm going to pick a color like this. Okay, I'm going to go to effects. I'm going to go to inner glow, right? Now you want to make sure whatever the opacity is, we can adjust that from there. But right now mine's on 56. You make your choke make sure your choke is 2 and your size is 110, and you want white for the color. Okay, just leave it on a lighten. Your range is 100. Jitters at 23. All right. Then I'm going to add an outer glow. Okay. So again, we can adjust the opacity. So whatever it's on, 27 for now. It's your spread and stuff we can adjust, but for now it's at 16 and 16. And set to screen. So I'm going to come in here with this green, and we're going to give it a green saber, right? So I'm going to switch back to my regular hard round brush, and I can simply come in here like this, and come down and fill that in. Now before we take a look at it and see what it looks like, we're going to give this thing a background. So I'm just going to call it background. Okay. And we're just going to go ahead and go black with it. Alright. Actually, let's see. Let's switch to a gradient. See what we can get going this way. Okay, let's see if we can switch. Let's change this color from white. Let's change this to a green, or like a light one. Let's try it again. Yeah, we can go like that, but we want to really bring the black down. So we'll take it that way. Okay, so now I can come back to this outer glow, right? So let's look at the opacity at 100. The spread. Size, right? So we can put a little bit of a beam in there. Got ourselves a nice glow going, right? Now I want to go to this inner glow. Turn that up to 100. You can see how that starts changing things. We want it to get kind of a little bit of a hazy white. Yeah, you can adjust the choke to give it more of a whiter glow inside the middle. And then our size, and we can leave about the same here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is we're going to add a little bit extra to it. I'm going to call this one white beam. And then I'm going to switch back to my airbrush. Okay, I'm going to shrink this down. And with it being pure white, let's see, let's try and make it here to here. Let's try it with a regular brush, see if that's any better. Here, here. Yeah, that gives us a nice little beam charge right there. Okay. Now, we're not finished. We have the beam saber done, but now we have to start adding in the lighting that goes with the body itself, right? So I can come back down here, and above the shadow layer, we can put highlights, right? And then I want to sample. If you hold Alt, you can kind of sample a greenish tone right in there. And again, I can switch back to my airbrush. Okay, I'm going to shrink that down. And then what we can do is still copy. So I'm going to hold Command and click on that mask. Make sure on your highlights layer, I'm going to mask that off. Again, that'll allow me to get close to the edge here. Um, without, sorry, without losing what I got, right? So we want to kind of pick, oh, that's my problem. I'm not on the, yeah, make sure that you're not on your mask. That's part of the problem. Okay. And I can just come in here. And we can add in the highlights as we see them. I'm not sure why that mask is not keeping the highlight in, but we'll just erase out the edge there. Erase that off the arm a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here on the face. Maybe not quite so big. Okay, we can put a little bit down here on the nose as well. A little bit in the eyes. Okay, get some on the lips here. Again, we just have that area there. I can come and hit it up. Here on the uniform, again, we kind of have the outer portion of the headdress. And you hit up just the outside edges of those sharp points there. Okay, and come down here. And get a little bit in certain areas down in here. And just work my way up the arm. Okay, and come down into the belt. A bit of the buckle sheens going. A tiny bit of the belt back here. And we can do a little bit on the body. Right, and then I want to hit up that edge there. Okay, I'm going to shrink it up and get the edge on the gloves. Okay, I can get some on the fingers. Just the edge closest to that line. And the rest of that's so close to the beam. You make that a little bit darker. I shouldn't say darker, I should say brighter. By just simply going over this again, it'll add more of that green in there. Just continue to work my way around on the lips, the nose. Okay, so I'm gonna work that in. Keep going around. Hit up some of these other spots too, like on the sharp points on my headdress. Come back over these arms. And like I said, just going back over it makes it stand out a little bit more. Get a little bit more of that green in there. Okay. So now we can take that time to now zoom out and check our image. At the moment, my computer is being frozen for some reason, so sorry about that. So now we can zoom out, and we have ourselves a nice, cool, comic booky Ahsoka Tano image with a lightsaber, right? Something else we can do, get a little bit of reflection right there as well. Sorry, it just kind of slipped my mind. Alright, so again, nice cool comic image. And that's going to do it for our Digital Wednesday. If you hung around, you stuck through it, and finished everything, I greatly appreciate it. If you like what you saw and you want to see more videos like this, leave a comment. Let me know. Like, subscribe, share, whatever you want to do. It's fine with me. I just appreciate you being here, okay? So until next time, keep sketching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one, alright? Bye.